I want to throw it back straight at you. So what are you hoping to get from this session?
I'm hoping, I'll tell you straight away, I'm hoping you can persuade this group to participate in NANDA, because you're representing NANDA, aren't you? Is that
Well,
what
I do, yes, I'm on the council.
We've been members of East Bridgford for 15, 16 years, but prior to that we were members of West Bridgford, and we were very active with NANDA. We used to go and play.
I've seen your name.
I've won a cup once.
You did. I was researching today, I saw your name there.
Sydney Hopkin Award was one of that. But to be honest, I'm not, we're very biased, and we learned a huge amount from the adjudications, and we used to go on NANDA weekends and all sorts of things, and that's where we learned our crafts as we've learnt it. So I'm very pro.
Okay, good.
I think what I wanted was a bit of clarity, a bit of understanding of what the procedure is, what actually happens, and the process, and what you guys, if you're adjudicating, are looking for, and what we would be expecting from you, what we would get back from it. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, fine.
I've sort of echo a bit of Jeff and a bit of Rowena, because there seems to be this thing, right, going back with this group that, it's a terrible thing. We were slated and we all lost our confidence, and I can't help thinking that maybe it's not quite like that at all, and that it might attract constructive criticism and suggestions, and perhaps just help us move forward, give us some direction, both as a group and perhaps as individual
You said it all
actors.
for me. It's all about. Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of history then.
Yeah.
NANDA was formed in 1947, I think. But most people I know that are involved in NANDA have been in it since the 1960s. In the early days, of course, there wasn't no television or anything, so you've got to remember that amateur theatre was very, very popular in the 40s and 50s and 60s. That's when NANDA got formed in 1947 to help people get better at it, exchange ideas. This year we were hoping to run a director's course, a stage fighting course. People seem not to want to get involved too much in NANDA, except for the Play of the Year. And we now also get what we call wandering minstrels, people that go from group to group to group to group to take part in things and don't contribute anything else to that group or any other groups. And we get phone calls all the while. When's your next play? Or can I join this year? Or will I get a part? And you say, well, hopefully you will, but no guarantees. And if you can't guarantee people a part, they don't even turn up nowadays. To be fair as well, I think musical groups have also taken more of a lead and are more active. And particularly in musical groups, you get the same people moving around playing the same parts. I remember some years ago when I was involved with Nottingham Practice Society, there was a guy who played the King in The King and I, and that's all he did. He went around the whole of the Midlands just playing the King and The King and I.
Oh God, how boring!
That's all he did.
Yes.
It was good.
Was he
I
born?
don't think it was that good. But there still is a heck of a lot of interest in the Play of the Year Festival.
And how many entrants would you typically get for that?
Well, that's changed as well. In the early days, it could have been 5 or 6. It gradually built up to the teens. And the first time I adjudicated, it was a record year, and I did 26 adjudications that year.
Wow.
Which is too many. It was, you were out and did at least one a week. Some weeks didn't do any, but sometimes you did 2 or 3 in a week, and it became really hard work.
How many times did you see the same play?
Didn't see the same play.
Really?
I've still never seen the same play twice.
Really? That's amazing.
Done about 50 now, there's still... Oh, I'll tell you that. I've seen one twice. Quite recently I've seen something I've seen before. So it was certainly on target for upper teens.
Yeah.
Definitely. This year Colin Treliving, who lives in Burton Joyce, you know him, he's for me Nottingham Theatre Club, he's on target to do 16. So it's picked up again. Robin Hood have come back in this year. One of the criticisms we got recently was that it was getting too competitive as a competition. Some of the smaller groups who felt they're getting their noses pushed out and losing out to other groups who were perhaps a little bit better, may have had a little bit better actors, that sort of thing. So we went back to what we used to have, which is maximum of 2 entries a year now. It's brought the number down for the adjudicator down to mid-teens again, and it's made it a little bit less competitive for the smaller groups who felt they were being dwarfed by the bigger groups. I gave when I was adjudicating last time, I gave the Belper Cup, which is the second most prestigious cup. It's what the adjudicator gives it to anything he wants to give it to, for any reason whatsoever. And I gave it that year to Radcliffe-on-Trent for Educating Rita. I gave it to the 2 actors that were in it because they totally engaged the audience for 2 hours on their own. It was given 1 year to buy to players got it for technical presentation. So that's a bit of the background to NANDA, and certainly East Bridgford was very active in the late 80s, early 90s.
But so another advantage of this is you go to see other groups.
You do.
You get to know them.
Yeah.
And of course you still have the annual dinner.
Yes.
Yes, that was always a great.
Yeah.
And you used to have really good speakers.
She likes to find somebody that's perhaps going to be at the theatre hall for the week,
Yes,
not
yes,
for the
that's
week.
how it used to be.
And you write to them at a stage door 3 weeks earlier at where they are. Usually you get ignored by some of the nicest people you could think of, just ignore you. Some pass it on to their agents and ask how much we're going to pay them. And some people, like Christopher Timothy, phoned in in the middle of Marks and Spencer's. She was in Marks and Spencer's. Hello, Christopher Timothy here.
Wow.
I'd love to come. And he did, it was great. We sat there, 4 of us, after it all finished, 4 of us at the Grand Plaza, till 5 o'clock talking to him. He said, I really must go. I'm on stage, I couldn't get myself prepared. He was in Option's Choice. With,
We did that.
Oh yes, of course.
with
Sure.
Thank you very much. You know, the young festival looks like, from now on, being the only thing that NANDA's going to be doing. It's down to the adjudicator for the year to dish out all the awards. We always have a moderator who goes to see some of the shows. Also, you can't adjudicate your own group. Because I was adjudicating last year, Bonington players couldn't be adjudicated by me. So every year I am now the Player of the Year organiser, because Joan, who's done it for 20 years, has gone to live in Ireland. So adjudicating then, a little bit about that. Adjudicating all well-known local practitioners of the arts. They were actors, directors, all amateurs. I don't know why, because I wasn't on the council at the time. They took a view around about 2008-ish to bring in what was considered to be a higher calibre adjudicator, and it wasn't very good. And that's when people felt that they were being criticised and upset. As a result of that, when Joan handed over to me, she gave me a blacklist of people who we must never ever ask to come back again. I've got that list now, and I wouldn't invite any of them anyway. Some were paid a large fee because they were NODA adjudicators, National Operatic and Dramatic Association.
Okay.
They charge a lot of money.
So do you know what happened with East Bridgford?
They must have experienced these poor adjudicators.
Yeah.
We all experienced
Do
them.
you
Some of us
know
battled
that?
through it.
But I was just thinking back to what Howard was saying, because I was in a play at the Bonington that was adjudicated, and that's what put me off it, was they criticised the colour of the door we'd painted. They criticised the fact that the lead actor would never wear glasses. The lead actor could not see without his glasses, so it was just natural that he would wear his glasses, you know. And I thought these are really nitpicky in those days I used to get terribly nervous before I went on. And then when I knew the adjudicator was coming as well, that made me 3 times as bad. And then we got that adjudication and I thought,
It's
I
very
put myself
difficult.
through that.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult for adjudicators because when you're in the week's run, you know, it can unstable you if you say, well, actually, I don't think you approach this right, and so and it can just.
Well,
you don't do that.
We have
right?
unwritten rules.
Yes, yes.
Somebody in the group knows what night we're coming, but it's up to the group whether they tell the actors, the director, or whether they don't say anything to them.
Well,
we never send a report out now until the run's finished.
Yeah, yes.
No.
Because you've got to get the balance. I mean, to be effective and useful, you've got to say some, you know, difficult
Some
things.
things.
Otherwise, you never learn.
That's
But
right.
at the same time, it's difficult in the week, and some people are sensitive about
Which
it.
is a good point to come to what I was going how I was going to open this.
Yeah.
This was part of my address at the dinner last June, before I dished the awards out. This is what I said as part of it. I'll read it to you because I thought it was very apt and it was suitable for tonight. If you stand on a stage and act, sing or dance, people are going to comment on your performance, and it won't always be kind or informed or tactful or sympathetic or understanding. That, I'm afraid, is a fact, whether you're performing in a school play or on stage at the National. It might be a chance remark, a comment by a friend or relation, a formal review in print or on a website, or, heaven help us, an adjudicator. It all involves people observing you and your show and saying what they think. Everyone has an opinion. Listen to you now. I like to think that when adjudicating a competition and giving our feedback, we do try to offer constructive comments about how things might have been done differently, and that above all else we offer encouragement and not discouragement. Before my very first attempt at adjudication, I asked my friend Bob Wilgust for some words of advice, and he said, I'm going to offer you the same advice that I was given before my first adjudication, and that is, try to find something nice to say about everybody. That's advice I've tried to follow ever since. Adjudicators must let go of whatever preconceived notions they may have about a show and instead focus on the presentation in front of them. Admittedly, this can be hard. I have to remember that adjudication is not about what I think, instead it is about the performance in front of me and what the actors and directors have done. Adjudication is a difficult task and should be wielded with great care, and the honest but kind adjudicator will always be more respected than the honest but brutal one.
Because I remember in the old days at West Bridgford, we used to have an oral adjudication, but then that was followed up by a written.
But an oral one's probably the worst you can have because it's
Straight after the show,
if you do want to say something that might be a little bit contentious, it's no good. And it breaks the rule we've got now, non-written rule we've got now, which you don't say anything until after the week is up. Adjudicators should realise that you should be critically constructive, help the director and actors with sound suggestions which they may use to improve their work. You should understand that most actors try as hard as they know to be effective. And wherever possible, find something about the performance which you can honestly commend. Be specific in criticising the production and use examples from it. Keep your personal opinion of the playwright and the script to yourself. And that's what we're trying to do.